Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jasim Azzawi. The verbal war between Iraq and Syria leaves no room for doubt that the recently signed strategic cooperation agreement between the two countries has been dealt a mortal blow. The ferocity of the terror attacks in Baghdad has compelled Turkey and Iran to step in to contain the unfolding crisis. But the subsequent bitter mutual recrimination indicates that their efforts may come to a screeching halt. The so-called Bloody Wednesday has put the brakes on Prime Minister al-Maliki's claim of winning the war on violence. The question is, will he use Syria as the whipping boy to engender sympathy to avoid the backlash of angry voters in January's next election?
Recent diplomatic efforts trying to ease political tensions between Iraq and Syria has failed so far. Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu flew to the two capitals trying to diffuse tensions. A day before, his Iranian counterpart was on the same mission. The row started after Iraq accused Damascus for recent bloody attacks against the foreign and finance ministries that killed around 140 people last August. About 500 were injured. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki told the Turkish Foreign Minister that 90% of foreign fighters came to Iraq through Syria and that the masterminds for the latest bombings were senior former Ba'ath Party members residing in Syria. Now Iraq is demanding Syria to turn over the wanted suspects.
We do not accuse any country, and there's no accusation against the Syrian government. Our accusation is directed toward the people inside the Syrian territories involved in the explosions, and we consider the Syrian stance of hosting them as unfriendly.
The two countries recalled their ambassadors, though relations has not been cut. Syria has denied accusations. Its President Bashar al-Assad said the accusations were immoral and politically motivated.
Syria is accused of killing Iraqis, although it welcomes 1.2 million Iraqi refugees. Such accusations are immoral and political.
The relations between the two countries has improved recently. It was crowned when Prime Minister Maliki visited Syria. But many in Iraq and Syria are asking why the Iraqi government only accuses Syria and falls short of accusing other regional countries like Iran, who according to Iraqi and American intelligence sources is funding, training and arming Shia militias as well as other groups linked to al-Qaeda. Omar Saleh, Al Jazeera for Inside Iraq.
To discuss the rising tension between Iraq and Syria, I'm delighted to welcome from Baghdad Saad al-Muttalibi, a political advisor to the Ministry of National Dialogue in Iraq, and from Damascus, Samir Altaqi, director of the Orient Center for International Studies. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Iraq. Saad al-Muttalibi, let us go to the heart of the matter. Rhetoric aside, where is the evidence that Syria is implicated in Bloody Wednesday?
Well, next time maybe we should ask the terrorists to bring an authorization when they come and commit a crime. I mean, this question should not be asked this way. There are evidence, there are confessions, there are routes, there are cameras, there are maps, there are millions of things that indicate that 90% of terrorists come through Syria into Iraq. We are not implicating the Syrian government. I must be very clear on this. We're implicating Iraqi citizens living in Syria, taking advantage of the Syrian hospitality, using Syria as a launch pad to organize crimes against the state of Iraq and the people of Iraq.
Samir Altaqi, Syria has a history of not handing over political refugees requested by their mother country. Al-Maliki himself, when he resided in Syria, was asked by Iraq to hand him over during Saddam Hussein, and Syria refused. Is this a principled position, or is Syria keeping those two suspects for a rainy day?
Not at all. Practically, the Syrian position for a long time was that it won't be handling those opposition people, since not only Mr. Maliki, even Mr. Barzani at a certain moment and Talbani were guests in Syria, and Syria did not deliver them. And unless there is real evidences that would implicate them directly, that Syria would be convinced that this is not coming because of conflictual positions within the Iraqi political arena.
Saad al-Muttalibi, I will come to the maps and the other evidence you alluded to, but for the time being, regarding Bloody Wednesday, the trucks the explosives, the suicide bombers, they were all in Baghdad. And some people, they say al-Maliki is shifting the blame against himself because he was the one who ordered those concrete blast walls around the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be removed.
No, that's not very honest statement. Not from you, but the people who says that. The environment in Baghdad became better. Security became much better. A drop, over 90% drop in violence in Baghdad. The walls constituted a hurdle in the way of the Iraqi citizens. So they were not needed anymore. That's the general feeling of people had. So the government acted on the general will of the people. That was not a deliberate act of removing these walls to allow bombing. That's ridiculous. The bombs were in Baghdad, but the political will to start and use these bombs came from overseas or abroad. We say from Syria. We have evidence. We have proofs it's from Syria. Foreign Minister Oglu was completely convinced of all the evidence. Otherwise, he wouldn't have presented them to the Syrians. He was completely convinced that if this evidence were about Turkey, Turkey would have acted. So there is no question about the validity of the evidence. There is a question of Syrian political will to hand over those criminals. That's basically it.
Samir Altaqi, the evidence against you is airtight, he says.
At all, I think, even if we are speaking on behalf of Mr. Ahmed Dawoodoglu, he, as a mediator, he has to present the Iraqi position, but practically he didn't consider them as waterproof. I think practically what is needed is a direct dialogue between the two sides, not across the media centers or the press, but through specialist channels, through diplomatic channels, to present those evidences and to discuss them in a decent way.
The fact that 1.2 million Iraqis live in Syria, can they do exactly what they like regarding Iraq without the knowledge and the consent of the Syrian government and Syrian intelligence, as Saad al-Muttalibi alludes?
I think that we have to take in account that the fact that we have 1,200,000 refugees in Syria. They are not from one faction, they are not from one confession. They are Shias, they are Kurds, they are Sunnis. And every one of them is still having his political view about what's going on. And the more the political process in Iraq would be inclusive, the more this will withdraw any support, any domestic support and refugee support to those who are still thinking about regulating their positions in Iraq through violence.
I must come here, really, for you to dictate to us that we should include this faction or that faction. That is an interference, direct interference in Iraqi affairs. You are not. We do not interfere in your affairs. You do not advise us on issues. No, I'm not accusing anybody. I said
1 million refugee. You are exporting to me 1 million refugee. I'm telling you, it's better to try to make the situation. You welcome, but why aren't they be back?
Please, let me say.
Because exactly, they don't consider themselves safe, and they don't consider justice available, nor justice, nor even fairness would be available for them in Iraq. That's why they are saying in my lab.
Okay, let me correct some information. Let me correct some information for you, my dear friend. First of all, the United Nations says there are 160,000 Iraqis in Syria, not 1.2 million. That's one. Second, as from this moment, I am saying we are ready to have all these 160,000 back.
They
completely.
Are not ready.
We'll pay them.
If
they want to come back, they are Iraqis. Well, that is their problem. That's not my problem. That's not the problem of the Iraqis.
Let us move away from the Iraqi
to
refugees living in Syria. Saad al-Muttalibi, by far, they are not 160,000. They are over 1 million.
That's what the United Nations. That's what the United Nations said.
That is not the gist of this
the
program.
Europeans, everybody is saying that they are more than 1 million. And those who are registered officially have their restrictions for registration in the UNHCR.
Let me continue, Samir Altaqi, by asking Saad al-Muttalibi. Immediately after the Bloody Wednesday, the Chief of Military Intelligence, Mohammed Abdullah Shahwani, resigned, basically because he said, in his opinion, hold on just a second, hold on. in his opinion, those terror attacks were carried by Iran-trained al-Qaeda and not, as the fingers pointed, towards Syria.
He did not resign. He was moved into pension 1 month before the incident. I personally have seen the circulation at the Secretary General for the Office of the Council of Ministers, and I've seen the circulation about his being retired and his deputy taking his place. This information has been circulating in the internet. This accusation has been circulated, and I can categorically say that it is not true. I must say, he has been saying in the past that there are a number of caches, military caches and armaments and stuff that's coming from Iran. We know that. What we're trying to do, we're trying to achieve through an international court to have all incidents, all countries supporting terrorism to be looked at. Not only Syria, not only Iraqis living in Syria.
That request for a UN-based Samir Altaqi and international investigation is going to go through. Is Syria worried that they might haul her all the way to The Hague and say, explain yourself what happened on Bloody Wednesday?
At all, I think, because if we have to look about the crimes that had been committed against the Iraqi people, every fair judge will have to look since 2003 who was behind all the bloodshed that happened and all what happened practically in Iraq. To make it short, about what happened in the Bloody Wednesday, I think Syria is not concerned about this. We know that there had been for a certain time a trial, an attempt to use those trials as a political tool, but now I think the political situation is quite different. Second, I think that everybody will say first we have to judge the American acts. This doesn't mean that when Bloody Wednesday shouldn't be judged, but I think in my
what are you saying, Samir Altaqi? The Americans are implicated?
No, I'm saying we have to look at all the crimes in Iraq, first of all. Second, we have to take in account that all those evidences that are coming, they are coming from security services in conditions that are far away from any standard of international justice. And subsequently, those evidence won't be taken. What would be taken practically are definite facts, and if we are not worried about definite facts, that would be considered fair.
Go ahead,
and yes.
I must say, I must remind Dr. Samir not to interfere in Iraqi affairs. Please, we have our own system. We have cleansed our security services. We've released 62,000
Saad al-Muttalibi, that's a big stretch. Saad al-Muttalibi, by the admission of the Iraqi government itself, it says most of the militias that they were inducted into the army and into the security officers, security intelligence, they are still there. The Badr Brigade is still dominating the security apparatus.
My friend, come on, 62,000 people were released. Get the numbers from the Ministry of Interior. You'll have them by names, their list of names, not just numbers. I'm telling you, but the point is, interfering in Iraqi issue, we don't say that the Syrian security forces is made of a particular sect. We don't say that. That's not our business.
No,
we tell you, please, we ask you, do not interfere.
For justice.
This is not for you to decide, my dear friend. This is to be decided by the Hague.
I'm not speaking as a Syrian government representative. I'm speaking about my own opinion. Nobody will take those evidences that are taken. This is my opinion.
Well, keep your opinion to yourself, my friend. Because
no. He's here to articulate his opinion, Saad al-Muttalibi.
No.
He's here.
Hold
on just a second. Let me ask you something, Saad al-Muttalibi. Call Syria what you like. Call her manipulative. Call her spoiler. Call her sometimes it supports armed groups. But don't call Syria stupid. The reason why I'm saying this is, why would Syria choose the following day after signing a strategic cooperation agreement with Iraq in order to let those people do what they want? I mean, at least they would wait 3 months, 6 months. They're not that stupid, are they?
Let me explain.
No, hold on. Let him ask it. Let him.
Hence we go back to the issue of infiltration. There are groups actively working in Syria. who are working very hard to
without
stop
the
any
knowledge
strategic...
of the Syrian intelligence apparatus?
Of course, they are not there. You see, these people have been working for years
we
and
reached
years.
the point, let's ask Samir Altaqi. Samir,
they...
you don't know exactly what is happening in your own house. That's what Saad al-Muttalibi is saying.
Nobody that knows Syria would accept this. I think we have to admit one thing, that at the end of the day, with the acceptance of the Americans to begin the negotiations about the withdrawal of their troops from Iraq, Syria did not consider its job to protect them. I think Syria was supporting the insurgency against the American troops. This is true, but not in any way for the regulation of conflicts between Iraqis or that would lead to killing Iraqis. And now Syria had decided to interfere, to try from its side to encourage every Iraqi to be involved in the political process. And this is not interference. This is what Mr. Maliki had requested from Syria, is to...
But is Syria in control of its borders, Samir Altaqi? 90% of the infiltrators going into Iraq, according to Iraqis at least, they are coming from Syria. Is she in possession of her own house?
I will tell you, even the United States was not able to control its borders with Mexico. And when we ask the American if they can help in any way in controlling this, you know, you need technical support, you need lots. And Syria has another enemy on its southern borders. It won't get all its army to put it to protect the American occupation. This is no more the case after the decision of the American to withdraw. So the Syrians are more cooperative. They would like really to see
that is a very good point. Let's see what Saad says.
Government.
Yes, I agree partially. I mean, but the point is that since there are people crossing the border without the knowledge, as you see, it's either with the knowledge of the Syrian intelligence or without the knowledge of the Syrian intelligence. In both cases, Syria, if we point fingers at Syria, we'll find Syria accused of malpractice and of doing something wrong here. So we have to accept the fact that there are people working in Syria, working against Syrian interest and Iraqi interest. I must add that I was a principal player in working out the strategic land bridge between Iraq and Syria. And we think it's very important to strengthen our strategic links.
Aside from that, Saad al-Muttalibi, I was puzzled by that the Iraqi government, at least you say they have the evidence to implicate the two gentlemen, Sattam Farhan and Yunus al-Ahmad. You did not jump at the main Ba'ath party, which is headed right now by Izzat al-Duri, immediately jumped on two guys simply because they are residing in Syria, or as you say, the evidence you supported and you presented to Ahmed Daoud is damning.
This is the point. If we were just to throw the blame at somebody, we throw it at the other side of the Ba'ath party. But here we had evidence. We had specific intelligence and evidence that directed us directly to these two
If that is the case, why would you want a strategic cooperation with Syria if she is plotting against you since 2004, and according to some Iraqi officials, they have a training camps, they have a terrorist organization based there, you have the maps, you have the evidence. Why would you need the cooperation of Syria?
I believe, I'm one of the people that believe that trade, economics and cooperation between Iraq and Syria would benefit the Syrian population.
Are you trying to change their behavior by inducement?
Not inducement, but of national interest, of mutual national interest. If their interest is preserved through cooperation, then they would not need
from Samir Altaqi.
to be afraid of the Americans.
The Iraqis, they, although they have all the goods on you, they know where the training camps are, who is heading them, and what branch of the Syrian intelligence office actually is directing these camps, and yet they would like to give you the benefit of the doubt by striking this cooperation agreement with Syria. Is it dead, or is it still, you can resuscitate it?
I think first of all we have to rebuild up confidence between the two states. Now, as there is a deep bitterness and anger in Damascus, President Bashar al-Assad had explicitly considered those acts, especially coming from those who was sitting with them 24 hours before, accusing Syria of being involved in this. And because of that, there is this feeling. I think now, at the current situation, there is, I doubt really before that this cooperation will happen in any way, unless there is a change from the Iraqi position, because in fact, this is not about only economic cooperation. It's about goodwill between the two countries. This dialogue shouldn't have happened on media. It should had happened through diplomatic channels and
yes.
And expert channels. And it did take this way. There is real doubt about the intentions of those who are ruling Baghdad.
Saad al-Muttalibi, last question to you. Many people, they look at what al-Maliki did and what al-Maliki said, and let me remind you what he said immediately the day after Bloody Wednesday. He said, this is because simply of the political differences among Iraq's ruling elite. But let me ask you the final question. The final question is, al-Maliki, for a while, he was riding high in the saddle. He was the champion of improving security, and then a Bloody Wednesday happened. Now that is going to erode his popularity and might even damage him in the general election. Is he using Syria as a whipping boy?
No, he needs to answer to the people of Iraq. He needs to capture the culprits and put them to trial. He needs to defend the people of Iraq and defend his position in front of the people of Iraq. We have a democracy. He is going to the polls very soon, to elections. If he fails in this issue, people will not elect him. It's nothing to do with Syria or other countries. It's a matter of a crime committed against Iraqi people, and the culprits, the criminals, need to answer for this horrendous crime.
Saad al-Muttalibi, thank you very much. A last comment, less than 15 seconds from Samir Altaqi, and we finish this program. Go ahead, Samir.
My point of view is that practically when you send to Syria 1,200,000 refugees, you make Syria very much stressed and very much concerned about what's going in Iraq. And we are very much concerned about the normalization situation in Iraq and the widening of the political process.
Samir Altaqi, Saad al-Muttalibi, gentlemen, thank you for being guests on Inside Iraq.
Thank you very much.
To watch the show online and to send us your comments, please go to aljazeera.net/English. We have reached the end of this show. Join me next week when we take another look inside Iraq. Until then, have a great week.